Hey guys, welcome back to the podcast. I'm really excited today, as of course every day I do a show. I've got my friend Carmen Turner-Schott, and Carmen is an author, practicing licensed clinical social worker, Christian astrologer, which I love that one. We'll get into that a little bit, hopefully. Teacher, and a teacher also with a national and international clientele. Carmen has been researching the 8th and 12th astrological houses for the past 25 years. And she's an 8th and 12th house person herself, so she's personally experienced the energy and the lessons of these two very spiritually transforming houses. Carmen is the author of, I believe, 2 books so far, right? And you've got a third one coming out. Is that correct?
Yeah, I have 4. I'll have 4 new books. I have my Sun Signs Houses and Healing that came out last May, and then May 8th, Moon Signs Houses and Healing is my newest book that comes out. And then I also have a book coming out July 1st, Phoenixes and Angels.
Oh, wow.
Mastering the 8th and 12th astrological houses. So I'm excited about the Moon Sign book, very much so, and the Phoenixes and Angels. So we could talk about both if you want to. But when in astrology, the sun sign, most people know their sun sign, but a lot of people don't really understand how important the moon sign is as well. That it's actually probably more important to understand in your emotional nature, it's your inner nature. It's
Yeah.
how you show love and where you feel comfortable and secure and find emotional fulfillment, and where you get emotional strength is your moon sign. So that's why I wrote the book, just to give tips to each moon sign and talk a little about that.
Yeah, excellent. That's great. Now, so the Moon Sign book is available for pre-order now, right, on Amazon. Is
Yes,
that correct? Okay,
yes,
and the
yes.
other one is not pre-order yet. Is that also correct?
It's pre-order. Yeah, it's
Oh, it is.
pre-order.
Okay.
Yeah, it is. The only thing we're waiting on is in about a month. The Kindle version will be available for pre-order. It's just the print version right now.
Okay,
Yeah,
great.
yeah,
And they can find all that on your website, obviously, right?
yeah. They can find all that on www.carmenturnerschott.com or on amazon.com. If you look up Carmen Turner-Schott, all my books will come up.
Okay, excellent. Okay, yeah, I just want to say really quick, I opened up a Patreon account a couple weeks ago, so I appreciate your support, everyone, if you're able to do that. I can't continue without your help, actually, so you could help me out with that. That'd be fantastic. I've also got a PayPal link for donations. All my services are beneath the video in the description, so of course I'm also an astrologer, as Carmen is. I would also consider myself a Christian astrologer. I've never used that phrase, but I would definitely say that's true. That's actually one of the very rare things we have in common. I don't know if I've ever
Yes,
really known anyone else that is comfortable with both of those sides, and we can get into that a little too.
that'd be
So,
great.
yep. So in any case, I'll put all the information in the description for both myself and Carmen. You guys can come check us out. That'd be awesome. All right. So today we're going to do something a little different. I love every topic. There's really not a topic that, truthfully, that does not interest me. So anything that's thought-provoking, especially when the other person has some really interesting things to add, I'm always excited to get into it. So today, me and Carmen have talked about what we wanted to do is we actually wanted to talk about dreams. And what that means, what the dream world is. Of course, the 12th house is all about dreams. I mean,
Yes,
I think you could even say the moon sign probably has a fair amount to do with that,
yes,
the inner life, of dreams and everything. There's so many ways to do astrology, but what I usually say is that I would say there's ways that are consistent and correct, and then there's ways that are just not correct. As long as you're pulling things out, in the proper way, you can decide, oh, I want to focus on this part, and this part. It doesn't mean that if someone doesn't want to focus on that, they're not doing astrology correctly necessarily. But it's how we each piece it out, and how we present it, and also what we're trying to do. If we're talking about dreams, if you're talking about dreams and you're an astrologer and you don't look at the 12th house, there's something wrong. I
yeah,
mean, I guarantee that for sure.
yeah,
So in any case, we're going to go into dreams a little bit, and then I also want to talk about past life memories,
yes,
which is can be somewhat controversial topic for people who might say, that they're Christian, and the part that I'm going to present, I think Carmen would probably agree with me. We've already discussed that we're both Christian
mm-hmm,
astrologers, and
mm-hmm,
so for me, they're totally fine and consistent. And actually, there's some proof. There's actually quite a bit of proof and evidence that the belief in reincarnation was it was available and it was being used at the time when Christianity was first developed, and then it was later removed.
Yes.
Which goes into the fact of, who touched the Bible, who edited the Bible, for what purposes, and stuff like that. So it's really a part of every religion. And to say that it's not a part of Christianity, I mean, again, I'm not going to try to change anyone's mind, but
sure,
if it's part of every tradition on the planet except Christian, no, I don't buy that. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. So we'll go into that. But Carmen, if you want to open it up wherever you want to start.
Sure. So, I'd like to, we could start with dreams, and kind of look at, ancient cultures, but, just looking at the Bible itself and all of the dreams that God gave to people that were documented, only ones that we know about, lots. I think the dreams are I forgot how many dreams are mentioned in the Bible, but it's a ton of people dreaming things and it happening and God preparing them. And I think that, in astrology, the 12th house is the house ruled by the sign Pisces. It's associated with the planet Neptune, and it's the house of spirituality, cosmic consciousness, the subconscious mind, the unconscious. And, and that's kind of what happens when we go to bed at night. We go to sleep and we have these different levels of our brain goes through REM sleep, and we have these dreams and these symbols that actually have energy and meaning behind them. And I started getting into dreams based on my own personal experiences. When I was about 15 years old, I started dreaming very vividly and very deeply, and I would sleepwalk and act out my dreams. And I did all this as a child as well, which I didn't really know until I got, my teenage years. My mother said I always sleptwalk. And one night when I was 16 years old, I had my first dream that was so vivid. And the next day, the whole thing happened just as I had dreamed it. And no one in my life, I was raised Baptist. No one in my life could explain to me how I dreamed about a future event and why. And I was kind of, I don't want to say shamed, but in a way told that's not normal. Like you shouldn't be dreaming things that happen, kind of like it was evil or bad or something like that, which it's not. I know that now, but back then, that was one of the first things that happened. I dreamed about a neighbor of mine had called me on the phone and was crying. And I walked outside, watched them come down the hill, sat on the curb with them, comforted them. And they specifically, I remembered that they had a black hat on, white t-shirt, and glasses, which I had never seen them in before, and glasses before. There's little things. And the next day it bothered me when I woke up, it was so vivid. And I went to work, and it was the summer. I was back from college. I think it was like my freshman. I think it was like more like around, I was probably more around 18 maybe. And I came home and the whole thing happened. That night I got a call. It was him. I go outside. He comes down the hill wearing the black hat, glasses, and a t-shirt. And he tells me all this stuff. And he was upset about his parents getting divorced and cried and everything else. So I said, I dreamed this. How did I know? I can't explain it to anyone. It was eerie. And I knew then there's something about dreams that are important. And so I started buying dream books and dream interpretation books. And I started getting a dream journal and handwriting all my dreams. And I started doing that all through college. I had all my binders this thick with all of my dreams dated, and I would go back and look at my dreams. And I would see that a lot of the energies and things I dreamed about happened in my life, or were like preparing me for something coming. And I think what it is for me, I know how to control it now in a way where I know when I dream something, when I first wake up, if it's a psychic dream where it's a warning, like a message of something coming for like in real life, like a glimpse of the future, or I'll know when it's just symbolic, when it's just really symbolic and kind of maybe I'm stressed, and I'm going to bed and I'm not dreaming as deeply, and I'll be able to analyze those symbols and I kind of know the difference. And I typically dream about other people not my own life. I wish I could dream about what's going to happen to me, but I don't. I typically dream about people in my awareness, like people that I'm not really, really close with, typically, that I have acquaintance type of relationships with them. So my, either a supervisor or a coworker, someone in my family, or someone that I know through work, but maybe not close relationship, where I'd want to tell them, hey, I had a dream about you, because they might think I'm crazy, right? But I learn now, I just tell people, hey, I dream things and I had a dream about you. I've gotten more comfortable with letting people know when I dream about them, because I feel like it's meant for me to see it so I can prepare them and just get it in their awareness that there's something happening. You know what I mean? And I always share with them, what I dreamed, and sometimes I'll kind of know what's going to happen, like a new job, or they're going to make a change, right? And I'll kind of have a feeling based on the symbols, like someone gets their hair cut, someone dies in a dream. Death is change, doesn't mean physical death. So when I dream of people dying, that means that they're really going to change, or their relationship with me is going to be completely different. I've had that too. So just, through my research, I realized, everyone has certain symbols that they tend to dream about a lot. Like I dream a lot about animals. So, I have some books on Stephen Farmer, on animal totems, different books that you can look. I look up dreams, animals, to see, because I'll dream about animals like that I've never dreamed about in my life, like a gorilla or an alligator or a snake or a cobra. I mean, I've had dreams about every kind of animal, and it's the energy that I associate with those animals. It could be positive or negative, based on if you like the animal or not, or what the animal's kind of known for, right? Like a lion is strength, right? If you dream about a lion, they say that you need to be strong. You need to have strength. There's something going to happen in your life, right? That you're going to be tested. So, there's all these things I've learned through 25 years of analyzing my own dreams and just listening to other people's dreams and helping other people interpret their dreams. People call me all the time, friends, family. Carmen, did you dream about me? I had this weird dream. Can you tell me what it means? And I absolutely love that. And I realized that, dreams are throughout the Bible. And I believe that God gives us glimpses of what's coming in the future. Not that we can change it, because I have learned that the things I dream about, they happen. It doesn't matter what I do. I can't prevent them. Okay. I do believe there's some people that maybe you will dream something that you could prevent something. I do believe that's possible. But for the most part, when I dream something, it's already in play to manifest in the real world. And so then I see it happen. I'm like, I knew it. I knew that was going to happen because I dreamed it. And so it kind of validates my dreams and whatever, is coming to me. And I can't make it happen. I can't, it just happens, and it comes to, I have no control of trying to do it. Now, I've read a lot of books on this, which you probably have too, Dave, like dream, lucid dreaming. I have lucid dreams several times in my life where I wake up in my dream and I know I'm awake. And it's the hardest thing to explain to people. But I'm in the dream world, but mentally I'm aware that, oh, I'm dreaming. And then I panic. Okay, then I wake myself up, right? So I can't hold it really long when it happens. But an example I give is I dreamed right before COVID happened. I had this dream where I was flying on top of the ocean, and I was flying in my body on top of the water, like right on top, real fast. And I saw a big bridge out in front of me. And then on the side, there's all this green grass and beautiful flowers and everything. But I knew I was flying, and I woke up in the dream and realized, oh my gosh, I'm dreaming, and then mentally I was awake, and I start going down, like I thought, oh, I'm going to hit the water. And then I kind of fly to the side, and then I wake up, after I landed on the grass. And I've had this happen several times in my life. And these lucid dreams, which means you kind of become aware in the dream world that you're awake. And some people are known to control their dreams. I've heard a lot of people tell me that once they wake up in the dream, they can say, okay, I want to have a gun to protect myself, or if they have a lot of nightmares. I've known people that have shared with me they had like recurring dreams through childhood. They always had the same dream over and over again. And then they conquered the dream, right? Because they stood up or they opened the door that they were afraid to go in or whatever it was. And then they never dreamed it again. It's like they conquered the dream. So I'm fascinated by this, and like to hear your thoughts on it too. I could talk for hours about dreams.
Oh yeah, that's great. I wonder too if the fact when you realize it and that you have a moment of panic, I'm thinking that might have something to do with with Virgo actually.
True.
Because it's like, Virgos tend to be very cautious and careful, and they don't
Yes.
jump into things unless they're sure of it and they're comfortable with it. And also, they're data driven, so they want to see the proof and everything.
Yes.
So
Yes.
that sounds like a Virgo thing to me too, Carmen. Of course, one of the things that's interesting about me and Carmen is that I'm a Pisces and Carmen's a Virgo. If you know anything about astrology, they're actually exactly opposite to each other. And so that creates a really interesting dynamic. And I love it. I mean, I love it as long as both people have to be on their game, which means that like you have to be able to own your own energy. You have to have a lot of self-control. If either of the people don't, it's going to be really bad.
Yeah.
If both, again, that's either of them. So even if you're doing good and the other person's off, the other person's not going to be able to handle it. I guarantee you that. If you guys are both on, it's a really beautiful. It's like your other half. It's your missing half essentially.
Definitely.
And so you get to feels like you're playing ping pong with yourself, kind of, and it's really fun and like endlessly entertaining, I find. And it's also really easy because you don't feel like you have to overly explain anything because they already get it. I just say it. I never have to explain things to Carmen. She always gets what I'm saying, so it's very easy.
Yeah, it's
and
true.
then now the part about the Bible is that Carmen's totally correct. I mean, there's so many verses and passages that talk about dreams, and you could talk about dreams versus visions, versus I mean, even I believe even like astral travel and stuff with Enoch, for instance, going up and seeing the spheres, and of course it's a big part of what I teach about cosmology. So I think there's different, much like Carmen, I'm very similar to that. I've always been fascinated by the dream world, and of course, me being Pisces, of course, that's the sign. So I can talk a lot about that, and we should talk more about the 12th house a little bit later. But the thing about it for me is that when I first started having dreams early in my life, I didn't really, well, I think first, when you're really, really young, you don't really realize there's not a break between your different realities. It's just a continuation of your consciousness. So it's like when you close your eyes, you get to do some really cool stuff, and you get to meet your like dragon friends and things like that. And then you come back and it's like, okay, now I'm just going to go to school, and then I'm excited because when I go to sleep, I'll get to see them again. And kids don't really they don't like demarcate it. There's not really that much of a difference. So if someone had asked me when I was 12, like, have you ever had like an astral travel experience? I'd be like, I don't even know what that is. I mean, if you're talking about when I go and explore the universe, okay, yeah, I guess that's what it is, But the thing for me is that I think now, after having studied dreams for very, very long, I mean, probably even before I got into any kind of other spiritual thing, I was fascinated by dreams. So probably this was the first thing, Carmen, even for me, that really got me paying attention to like alternate realities and dimensions and stuff like that, adventures, stuff like that in the spiritual world. I just didn't know that was part of, you could put dreams in that topic. So I think nowadays, the way I look at it is that there's so many different configurations, I guess would be a proper word for it, for the dream world. And some of them I believe it's like a lot of scientists say it's just you're trying to decompress, you're trying to organize your brain, and all the stuff that doesn't need to be in there. It's like you're sweeping house at night. So then you have this weird stuff. It's like, you met a person on a bus or something during your day, and then in your dream you meet a person on the bus, but it's slightly different and it's a little bit weird. It's like, okay, that happened to me today, so of course that's related. I just experienced that. So that's one version, and that's something that's it's like you're playing like you're playing like thought games with yourself, or you're playing, it's like a cleaning of the house. I don't necessarily consider that a version of reality. That might just be more of like a VR that you're playing through your own head. However, there are plenty of other options. Some of the other options are astral travel, which is a lot of times that can actually happen in real time, which means that, and I've had this happen to me several times in my life, throughout my life, is that I'm actually, basically the astral body it's a lighter version of your physical body, essentially. And some people might say there's different conditions to that too, but basically you can go out of your physical body and you can go explore things. And so I've had dreams where I've been able to do that in real time, which means that I was like 200 miles away, and I know this because I know the area I went to. Everything was perfectly there, and the sun was at the same angle in the sky, which meant all this stuff meant to me that it was actually happening at that time. So that was a real time experience. Then there's astral traveling, where it's not real time. You actually are outside of time, which is, in my opinion, actually even really better for most. To have more fun and have more adventures and stuff, is that you're not subject to time, so you can go and explore things and do whatever you want, basically, in alternate realities, different timeline. Well, maybe not even time. As mentioned, there's not time there. And then there's ones where you have like a dual dream, where if the person's dreaming and you're dreaming at the same time. I've talked to someone. They told me that they actually go fight like demons essentially together. So they enter and they're different. They're living in different places, Carmen. So
like dream walkers. The shamans, you can travel within, they call them dream walkers. And apparently a lot of people, our souls learned to do that a long time ago. Apparently that some people, awaken that gift, and they can enter into people's dreams and like really physical, like you said, in their energy body. But I think it reminds me of, they call it the silver cord that holds our soul to our physical body. So when we dream, our soul, or a level of our soul, we have different energy bodies, different spiritual bodies, like the Akashic, body, the etheric double, there's all these different ones, but a part of we travel in the astral, and we leave our body when we sleep at night. And this is what I do believe, and I've read a lot of books about it. And we're not really in our body, everything about our body when we're sleeping, it's like we're almost dead, and the breathing and everything. And so it's like it's enough for us to leave our bodies. So when we dream at night, we really all are traveling, outside the body. And it's a story that got me researching this years ago. I knew a girl in graduate school who had a really bad car accident when she was like 16, and she died, and they brought her back. So she was clinically dead for quite a while, and they resuscitated her, and she came back. But ever since then, she couldn't sleep, because every night she went to bed, she would leave her body. She'd be looking down at herself in the bed, and she would and it was, I believe that silver cord was damaged or severed, whatever, right? So she told me about it, and I believed her. And she was on a lot of medication for sleep and things like that, because no one knew what to do to help her. You know what I mean? Because and when I met her, I started telling her about astral, travel, and that I think that's what's happened, is that, if you really physically died, that silver cord might be, you can just leave more easily than most people. You know what I mean? And so when I read about that when we go to, that we're leaving our body, our soul kind of leaves our body when we sleep, that makes sense. And I think, when you wake up, or some people are able to travel into other people's dreams, or I think it's like the collective unconscious, we're all in there, and we can interact with each other, but we don't always consciously remember it, because we're in the subconscious when we sleep. But it's interesting, there's a lot of research that I did on it, in Canada. You may have read about this, the thing called the Hag effect. I had experience in college I could not explain, And I started researching, like, what is this? And I realized a lot of people had the same thing happen. And what it is like when I go to sleep, there's times where I wake up in my bed and I know I'm awake, but I'm really not awake. And I see something. Okay. I'll see someone. I'll see, like, I feel a presence or whatever. And then I get scared because it's like that lack of control. Like, I'm not in control of the experience. So I panic, and it's probably my Virgo. I don't like this because I'm awake, but I'm not awake. Right. And so then I wake up and I'm in my bed for real. And the first time it happened to me, it was intense. I was in the college dorm, and I woke up. Long story short, let me tell you this: I had an argument with a girl in class about religion. Okay, so this is where this all came from.
Okay.
And so we were arguing about religion, and she was kind of negative to this guy in the class and hurt his feelings, and she pretty much told him he was going to go to hell. And I got upset, and I said, you're not God. How dare you judge him? And I got upset, and she was debating stuff with me on religion in this class. And I left, and I was upset, and went back to the dorm, and I went to sleep, and I had a very vivid dream about her. And she was crying and coming towards me. And in the background, I saw a coffin, and there was people crying. And when I woke up, Dave, I can't explain this to anyone. And I don't know if I've even put it in any of my books, but there was a weight, like someone laying on my chest. And I could not breathe. I knew it's like someone was on top of me, and I could feel it. And I just kind of scream, right? And I jump up, and I sensed the presence of her mother. And I turned the light on, I'm in the door, and I thought, I don't even know this girl. I didn't know her personally. It was like our first class. We got in this little argument right about religion. And I went back to sleep. Same thing happened. And I felt like this weight, and I kind of felt like this, it's hard to explain, this presence. So I started researching this, right? And I realized, I'll read about the Hag effect, where people wake up and they sense a presence, or and they're in that in-between state of awake and dream. And, I did try to do scientific research, right, to explain my experience. But the thing is, nothing can explain it because of what happened next. So I went to class, and she wasn't in there. And I had her in 2 classes. She was gone for like 2 months. I thought she quit school, right? I didn't think she's ever going to come back. I didn't know where she was. I went up and asked the professor, is she coming back? What's going on? He said, I don't know where she's at. No one knew. So about 2 months later, she comes in, walks in, and she comes and sits down next to me. And what I knew, Dave, when I woke up from those dreams, I knew her mother had died. I knew it, and I felt it, and I didn't know who she was, and she probably thought I didn't want her to tell her. When I saw her, I dreamed about your mother dying. She'd think I'm crazy, right? So anyway, she sat down next to me, and I looked at her and I said, are you okay? I didn't think you were coming back. And she said, I'm okay now. My mother died. And when she looked at me, she knew I knew. And she was scared of me at the time. And so for about a month, she avoided me. And then one day we had a summer class together, and it was a class about death and dying. Okay. And she pulled me out in the hall, and when she knew I was normal, because we were doing a project, and she saw that, I was actually a normal person. And she pulled me to the side, and she said, I don't know how you knew, but I know you knew my mother died. She said, how did you know? And I told her I had a dream. I can't explain it. I had it, and I didn't tell her I felt her on top of me and all that stuff. I just said, I had a dream about you, and you were crying, and I saw something in the dream, and I knew that I knew. And I can't explain it. I think that I said, the only thing she goes, I believe you. She goes, there's no way you could have known. I didn't even tell the teacher. No one knew. And I said, I think this happened to open up your mind to that there's more to God and religion than we know. This is what I told her. I said, because I was raised Baptist. She was too. And she shared that with me. And her husband was a preacher. He was a minister. And she shared that with me, and she ended up introducing me to him, and she came to my wedding and everything, and we became good friends. And it did change her, where she realized there's more to things than we know, because she knew she believed, she knew I knew. And I told her, I didn't really just know, I had a dream about you. And that was one of the most powerful experiences I've ever had, really, with my dreams. I've had a lot of really intense experiences, but that was one of the most intense. And her and I became friends. And then we both went on our separate ways and became social workers, actually. So it's interesting, but I believe in that. And, I think people just think their dreams are meaningless. They don't realize, it's like that saying, an unexamined dream is like an unopened letter. It's like all this information from your soul, and you're not even looking at it. Like, you're just throwing it out. So I believe that we all dream. I've had a lot of people tell me, Carmen, I don't dream. People dream, they just don't remember their dreams. And so there's ways to, I'll be honest, there's some people that are just, their spiritual gift is dreaming. They're born with the ability. I do believe that. Just like some people are born with a math ability. Some people are born where they can play a sport, right? We all have, or draw or paint, play an instrument. We all are born with talents. And I believe some people are born with the gift of dreaming. And it's typically Pisces people, people with 12th house planets, strong Neptune. Astrologically, there's things we can see, but some people are born with the gift of dreams. And almost 98% of the time when someone tells me they dream vividly, they dream things that happen, they have 12th house planets almost every single time. And my research has shown it. And I'm like, yep, you're a 12th houser. This is why you dream things. You need to pay attention. Then I have people that don't remember dreams, and there's techniques and skills that, we can teach people to open up and try to remember their dreams, like training your subconscious mind before you go to sleep. I will remember my dreams. I will remember my dreams. Say it 3 times. I would write it down in my dream log and tell people to do that too. I will remember my dreams. And then it's easier to remember them. But you got to it's like a muscle. You got to kind of exercise it, to get it working. But I do believe that, and then some people dream once in a while, but when they do dream, it's important. They don't remember them ever, except maybe twice a year. Everyone's different. Everyone's different. But I believe, the reason I'm such a vivid dreamer is because I have the sun and Venus in the 12th house. And I also have my moon and Jupiter in the 8th house. So, and that Pisces energy on my 7th house, my polar opposite sign, Pisces. I think that's why as well. But I'm happy I dream. I tell you, if I didn't dream, it's my favorite thing ever. And I'll even say I hate taking any kind of medication or any kind of sleep medication, like, melatonin or Ambien or anything, because it takes my dreams from me. I don't dream. I don't remember them if I take medicine. So I like, and that's the thing, like even alcohol, any kind of medication can influence your ability to dream deeply. And so if you really want to dream deeply, try to be, what I say, healthy and clean and clear, and you're more able to dream if you're not taking sleep medicine, things like that. Because that kind of knocks you out where your brain, it helps you go to sleep. So when you're dreaming, your mind is awake. They say if you dream a lot, you're not sleeping really well. That's what they always would say. Like I tell my doctor, like, I dream all night. They said, well, then you're not dreaming deeply, or you're not sleeping deeply and getting a restful sleep. And this is what scientists will say, right? Brain science. Like if you're dreaming too much all night, your brain isn't getting rest, like you were talking about. That means that you're not getting a restful sleep, is what they'll say.
I love how people think they know all about other people's experiences. This is one of the things, is one of the most important cosmic laws in my view, is that you have to let people have their own experiences. You don't know are you in their body? No. Okay. Because you studied something under a microscope, that don't mean that you know what's going on in their head, or that you can invalidate or even validate what's going on in their head. People have to give each other space, Carmen. It drives me up the wall that people think they can inflect what they believe it is. And you know what I've learned, I mean, I've probably been doing it this way for 10 years, is that I always say it in my shows and everything, is that when I present something or I present a conclusion I have, and by the way, I usually call it a working conclusion, because it's based on what I know now, you know, and that could potentially change. So not only do I cover myself really well, just because I'm not making conclusive, definitive statements, I say, this is what I think it is because of this.
Yes.
And if something else happens, I am willing, totally, and happy to look at it again. It's not a problem. But you know, for people to say, in a lot of the, even the medical world and all this stuff, people diagnosing people, it's like, you know, I don't necessarily feel like that's always accurate. And to invalidate someone when they need a different kind of support is actually really harmful to them. And it can be very destructive, spiritually, physically, medically, all this stuff. But I did want to touch on two things you said as well. I mean, I could touch on everything, but obviously we don't have all day. We could talk all day, as I think you would agree. But the thing for me about I wanted to talk about when you eat something, how it will influence it has the potential to influence your dream world. Now, one of the examples I really like to use, it's a fairly well-known one, is actually in the Christmas Carol story with Ebenezer Scrooge. Now, what most people don't pay attention to is that before he had the visitations, he had a heavy meal of meat. So he had a bunch of undigested meat in his stomach. Okay, and then he starts to get like drowsy, and then he sees weird stuff. So if I eat specific things, and I tell my friend, I'm like, man, if I have this, I'm gonna have a nightmare. And I'm like, man, I know it sounds crazy. I guarantee you, if I eat this, I'm going to have not good visions. So that's the thing about and that's the thing about physiology. And of course, before I even did astrology, Carmen, you know, I studied biology for a very long time, long time. And once I had enough of the Western version of that, I didn't go to the East, but I started reading about Eastern medicine and Ayurveda and principles of running energy and prana and chi and kundalini and all this stuff, chakras. And the thing about it is that people would be absolutely astounded if they realized how much your consciousness depends on your physiology. I mean, here's a good example. We all know what happens if you have you know, a beer, or if you smoke marijuana or something, or if you have a cigarette. It's like an instantaneous reaction. So you know, basically, no matter what you're thinking at that time, you know, when that goes into your body, you're going to have a switch of consciousness. So what I say is that if we can figure out how to actually bridle that, or how to harness that, or how to put that in between the fence and stuff like that, so you can manage it, then you can actually control so much more of your consciousness. And then you go into Eastern medicine, the principles of Eastern medicine, and fasting, of course, and cleaning the fluids in your body, which is the basis of Ayurvedic medicine. And I teach that even more than I teach astrology. I'm consistently saying, take the calories way down. Make sure you're getting your fat, because you need the fat for lubrication. It's an essential part of the body. You have to figure out where you're getting your fat from. That's, in my opinion, the most important part of the diet, and not too much of it. You don't need nearly as much as you think. And then let your body relax and rest. So when I talk about the dream world, I basically say that I believe the reason we're able to have a visual dream is because everything like you're saying, you know, you're basically paralyzed effectively. So almost everything in your body is turned off. All the non-essential functions are turned off. So all that free energy, now it goes up here. And when you're awake, and especially when you're awake and you're digesting heavy food, you barely have any free energy. So it's going to shut down the higher levels of this. You know, it's energy management and being able to pull different energy from different parts to help you and to serve you, you know? So then the last thing I want to say about this is about the silver cord. Now, this is one of these very interesting things. When I first read this, I was like, why do they call it that? What is going on with that? You read the descriptions and they say it's like an invisible tether, you know, it connects your physical body to your astral, your etheric body. If it's severed while you're away, then you actually die. Okay, well, one of the things, and I think that's true, but one of the things that I've suggested, and it's always what I talk about when I talk about the silver cord, is that you're also talking about gray matter. Okay, and the cord is your spinal cord. It's your spinal cord.
True.
Now, when you're talking, and that's gray matter, so it's a silver cord.
Yeah.
That's, physiologically, that's what that is. Now, when you're talking about your chakra system and you're talking about running energy up your spine, and each of the different chakras have actually complementary states of consciousness that are in line with each other. So the higher up in your spine you go, the higher levels of consciousness that you can access. And that's how it's been designed. Human body's been designed. So the thing about that part is that that's your consciousness superhighway, is your spinal cord. And the Eastern medicine also teaches that the consciousness essentially lives in the CSF, which is the cerebrospinal fluid, and that actually, I don't know if I ever told you this, Karen, but not Karen, excuse me, Carmen. I don't know if I ever told you this, but the thing that happens, according to the Eastern traditions, especially I believe I read it in the ancient Indian text, is it says that your consciousness, it pervades all of your cellular structure of your body, and it lives within the spinal cord. Well, it's not just spinal cord fluid, it's brain fluid. It ends up being diverted into lymph fluid and into your blood, and it's all one system. It's circulating and then disintegrating and coming back together. But the thing about it is that it actually it lives everywhere in your body, which means you can direct it. And you can direct it with your brain. And that's where a lot of this biofeedback stuff comes in. You're able to heal yourself. Yeah, because your consciousness, it's moving into your hand, literally. The awareness is in your hand, that your mind is like in your hand. It's moving through that fluid, So I think that's what I like to talk about with the silver cord, is that in a quick reference to the Bible, of course, is Jacob's ladder. Jay, and I want to know what you think about this in a second, but Jacob's ladder for me is the spinal column. It talks about I believe a winding staircase. If it's not winding, it's at least a staircase. And there's Jacob and this was a dream, right? This was his vision. Okay, so he's sleeping on the stone. Well, the stone is called the sacrum, and that's the base of your spinal column. And it's a hard piece of bone, it's one fairly large piece of bone. So his head is there, he's looking up, and he's watching angels ascend and descend. Okay, well, if you look at the vertebra, it looks like angels. It looks like angel wings, if you want to look at the physiology. So when you're looking, if your head's, if you were to make a model, and you're a model of the vertebra, or the vertebrae in the spinal column, and you're looking at the bottom, you're looking up, you're going to see angel wings all the way up, because that's what your vertebra look like. So, all these stories, they're multi-level. And the minute that we start saying, I'm a Christian, so I can't talk about Kundalini, or I can't talk about astrology, I'm like, okay, no problem, man. But I'll tell you what, for people who do want to talk about it, come to my show, or come on the podcast I'm on, and listen to some of the other ideas about it. And at the end of the day, Carmen, the biggest thing that I have to say to anyone, and by the way, I learned astrology because I was looking for information about the cerebrospinal fluid. So I typed it in on YouTube, and then Santos Bonacci comes up, if you know who he is. He's a great astrologer. He's a big flat earth guy. And so it comes up, I find this really strange esoteric topic about spinal cord fluid, changed my life forever. That was 2015. And then on the side, it had the videos, the suggestions for what else you should watch. And he had a bunch of astrology videos. And the reason I clicked on the astrology videos is because he did such a good job with the alternate physiological meanings about the Bible and all this stuff, that I said, this is someone I trust enough. I'm going to give him a chance. And then after I watched the astrology videos, now I said, now I have to take astrology seriously, because it looks like it's correct. And then I did about 60 charts, and then I said, it's correct. It doesn't matter if I like it or not. I mean, I don't particularly, it's a way to organize consciousness. That's how I look at it. But I'm the kind of person that wants people to be able to have freedom to go explore the universe, But if you're working with if you're working within the Earth system of consciousness, and you don't understand that you're going to be checked by astrology, meaning you're going to be restricted and given gifts, then you're missing like at least 75% of the picture. So you're going to be like grasping at straws, like, what is this? How do I? Well, okay, you know what? Look at your chart first.
Yeah.
Start with the chart,
Yeah.
and then you can figure out where you want to go from there.
It kind of reminds me, the Edgar Casey, talks about how in the Book of Revelation, the awakening, the horsemen are the chakras opening up. We have these energy centers in the body. Scientists, as have proven it, and it's like an awakening of those centers is, the whole Book of Revelation is about all of these different in our physical body, spiritual awakening.
Yep.
There's all these things, and the other thing, I mean, it's completely kind of changing the subject, but the whole thing with past lives. I had when I first started having these experiences, when I was in college, I was going to a Catholic school, a Catholic college, and I started getting drawn to the Catholic faith, because I was raised Baptist. I didn't know a lot about Catholicism, but I started going to the mass and read books, and I was minoring in philosophy and religion, just learning everything I could. And I felt like I know I have done it before. Like it was just like I felt very at home with the Catholic mass. I felt like it was something I've done before, and I had no experience with it at all in my life. I didn't know what the saints were, who the saints were, none of that. And during this time, because of my dreams, I almost became a nun. I started looking at orders of nuns, having them send me their brochures when I was in college. And I'm like, why am I doing this? Like, this is crazy. Like, well, I'm not even Catholic, right? So I had this whole thing. And if I would have told anybody, they would have thought I was crazy. But I felt called that what it was I was repeating a pattern from a past life. And I'll tell you, it all came together many years, which I shared with you about this about Saint Teresa and all these things that happened that I think it's all connected past life. But at that time, I went, this is a really strange story, but I went and had some Reiki energy work done because my back, around this time, my back hurt. Like my back was in so much pain. It was like someone broke my back. The nerve, I don't know what was wrong. And I was young. I mean, I've been playing basketball, before that, but I was injured and I didn't know what happened. And I went and got some energy work. And when I was, relaxing, I kind of saw this memory. I had a memory. And what it was these cardinals are men in robes. That's all I know. They were afraid of me. This is and they came and got me, and they broke my back. They broke my back, like, as a punishment. And then I kind of woke up, and the same session. This is something that, I mean, it happened. I can't explain it, and people may not believe me, but it really happened. I saw myself as like a 13-year-old girl, and I was in a cave, and I was hiding with a bunch of nuns. Okay, they had the habics on, all this, and we were hiding. Now I was in a dress. I wasn't a nun, but I was with them. And I look out, and there were soldiers, and they had these uniforms on. I can still see it in my mind what the uniforms look like. They were like a brownish, but they had some red on them. It's somewhere. And we were hiding, and they started murdering the nuns. And they told me to run. And all I remember is I ran, and I woke, and then I, woke up, and I was running, and I was really upset because I left them. And I'm like, is that a real memory? What is this? And that same week after this memory, I was, thinking about being a nun, all this stuff. And I went to Fontbonne College is where I went to school, and they had a big, like 100th anniversary, I don't even know, of the history of the college, which I didn't know anything about. And they had a nun in full habit, like telling the story of the Sisters of St. Joseph of Carondelet, who came from France and built this college in St. Louis, Missouri, right? And I listened to the story, and they started saying how they were murdered and all of this stuff, and by soldiers. And I knew then, I believed then in past lives. I got chills. No, I couldn't even explain it to anyone. I knew I knew there's something more to that I've been around more than just this time. Okay, that's I just knew. And
That
that's
was
why. Go ahead. Go
that
ahead.
was in France, Carmen. Where did that occur? Was that France?
No, no, I had this happen in St. Louis in college, but I found out that
About the actual,
the nuns that came to found the college I was at came from France.
yeah, France. Okay.
Yeah, the Sisters of St. Joseph, and I'd learned the whole history, how they were murdered and everything. Yeah, it was. I can't explain it to anyone. It was that same week that I had this memory. And so after that, I realized, I'm not supposed to be a nun, but I started researching reincarnation in the Bible, and I got a little book called Reincarnation for the Christian, and it was about Saint Jerome and how Saint Jerome, part of the Catholic Church, used to teach the reincarnation was part of their teachings. And
Yeah.
they banned him from the Catholic Church because of his belief in it, and they wanted to hide the knowledge. I read a whole book about it back in college, and then so I realized, this is part of religion. This is part of Christianity that was hidden from us or taken
Well,
out or whatever.
yeah, and a lot
Yeah.
of that too is it's of course a control mechanism, like everything is and seems to be in this world. Is that
Mm-hmm.
well, if you can reincarnate, then we can't control you anymore. Okay, so we can't let people know that. I mean,
Yeah.
this stuff is so foolish. I look
Oh,
around me and I'm like, is this really the best that what am I doing here? Why do I have to
yeah.
participate in this stuff? You don't have any say over anyone else's spiritual journey. You mind
Yeah.
your own damn business. You deal with yourself. You
Yeah.
know, it's preposterous the way
It
people
is.
treat each other.
And think about some things that Jesus said. There's some things he said in that led to me thinking he's lived before. Have we lived before? I mean, there's a lot of things in the Bible that make you wonder, and one of them, like you said, and there's a book I read called, I think it's called Many Lives, Many Masters, but there's a Edgar Casey book that they believe what they talk about is that Jesus had other lifetimes where he was actually Joseph, he was all of these figures in the Bible were the same soul of
Yeah,
Christ. Right? Yeah. And it makes
I love it.
and I'm like, oh my, it blew my mind when I read this book. And I was
This
like,
this is the part the concept of the avatar in the East, which is a
oh yeah,
very common concept in the East. That it says Krishna came down and in this version of himself or this avatar or whatever.
yeah.
And that's like that's kind of how transmigration works, and that's how you get to
Mhm.
experience different things. Is that you can, part of the beauty of the universe is that you can, depending on your level of freedom, I believe, and what you've merited and things of that
Yeah.
nature, and your karmic balance, you can come back. You can look like whatever you want.
Yeah.
I've learned this a long time ago. The outside package is
Yeah.
not necessarily what's inside. You'd be shocked, and
Sure.
people like to assume, at first glance or something like, oh yeah, this I'm not interested in
Hmm.
talking to this person.
Hmm.
Okay, well, I've learned to listen to everyone as long as they're being respectful and especially if they're
Sure.
being intelligent for me because I like intelligent conversation.
Sure.
Because I don't know what they've been through. I don't know who they are.
Sure.
We might have had previous relationships in other lifetimes and stuff.
Sure.
But yeah, I mean that totally could be the case with
Yeah.
any of these religious figures, is that they're just coming in a different form to serve a different function.
Yeah.
A lot of it, if it's for higher consciousness, I fully am very happy and support that. If it's just because you want to have fun,
Yeah.
okay. But when I see a world that's this corrupted and you have a chance to come back in service of humanity. Come on,
Yeah.
we need to figure this out.
Well, it's kind of like, Jesus said, these and greater things like these you can do. He told us we can do the things that he was doing,
Hmm.
and there's just so much about it. And that's why, when I say I call myself a Christian astrologer, I used to call myself a Christian mystic. That's another word I use. And then I've had even, people that are spiritual, but they're a little bit judgmental. They don't like it that I say I'm a Christian astrologer. Like, that rules me out. Well, are you okay talking about this on this show or being on this show? I'm like, yeah. I'll talk wherever. I mean, I'm fine if you're into, the earth medicine or whatever. It's not going to change what I believe, but I don't judge at all. Like, I'm very accepting, but people don't like it that I say that I'm a Christian astrologer, because they just don't see how the two go together. But you and I know they do go together. And there's so much, the three wise men in the Bible, following the star. There's all kinds of astrology symbolism throughout the Bible, Book of Revelation, everywhere, Genesis. So I feel better. I think a lot of Christians do reach out to me, and they're afraid to admit that they believe in astrology or study it because they think it's wrong, and they have a lot of guilt, that is given to them from their raising or their own their own fear. And it's fear. And I'll be honest, I went through my own struggle with this. Should I be studying this? Should I be doing this? I went through that years and years ago. And I had to overcome that. And because I realized every time I would question something, God would give me a validation that this is a tool to help people. And that is what I truly believe astrology is. And that's what I use it for. Anything can be used for good or evil, anything. And I believe astrology can be used to help people heal and become resilient and know their strengths and things that they're meant to do, their talents, their relationship compatibility. All of these things are to help gain self-awareness and treat others and accept other people. And that's what astrology, to me, my goal is of doing astrology. Some people, they get into prediction, they want to use it just to predict things. And I believe in energy. I believe that God created the universe, and all of the astrological things that are happening are energies that affect all of humankind, all of us. And it's part of, of the destiny of the universe. It's the way it's set up, and it's not a bad thing. It's truth, just like, with the moon, in here, I talk about the full moon and how it affects each of us, because, a lot of people, question, well, why is the moon so important? Well, it's scientifically proven, this day, that the moon affects the tides of the ocean. The moon, our body's made up of mostly water. Mm-hmm. So of course the moon is going to influence how we feel, how it's going to influences our sleep. A lot of times when there's a full moon, people complain that they can't sleep. They're restless, they're irritable, a little bit down, or they can have tons of energy, it can make you a little bit restless or sleep too much. There's just it affects us all in a different way, but it does affect us. And they've seen that more people have domestic disputes during a full moon. There's more arguments, there's more tension, there's more accidents, more people go to the emergency room. All of these things, because it affects Earth, it affects us, even animals. I had someone telling me, my dog, this happened to me recently, right before the full moon. It was like a day before the full moon. I heard her kind of make a kind of howl, and then she jumped off the bed. It's like she was sleepwalking. And then I noticed, wow, it's a full moon. I wonder if she was, she never does that. And then I heard someone else's dog was acting strange and went out and was looking up at the moon, wanted to get outside in the middle of the night. Yeah. I mean, I don't know, it affects animals, because they're living things. And I think it's funny when people say it's not a science, or it's hocus pocus, because if you know real astrology, not just reading the horoscopes in the paper, that's not real astrology. Real astrology is learning about the energy and the psychological part of astrology, the personality part of astrology, and the spiritual part of astrology. And then once you see there's more to it, everyone I've met even have been very skeptical. Once I've done their chart, they're like, I don't know how you knew that, but that's absolutely accurate. I'm like, it's not me. It's not me making up this stuff. I'm intuitive. I am, but it's not that. I'm analyzing what I've studied. I've studied astrology. I'm analyzing what I know and the energies. As far as intuition and all of that, if I dream something, I believe it, because it's a message. It's not me doing it. It's coming to me. You know what I mean? So I'm more comfortable sharing my dreams than just I have a feeling, which I do have feelings a lot of the times. I have a feeling, I'll tell people, and people at work and my family know, Carmen has a sixth sense. If she's, and usually I'm not always right, but typically there's something going on. When I have a very strong, and I try to use that to help people. You know what I mean? I mean, that's why I became a social worker, because I want to help people, and helping others makes me feel good, and I like to. And I also learn about myself. When I help other people, I help my own self. Heal,
Oh
and
yeah,
that's.
definitely.
But I like to talk about how this our sun and moon sign can help us heal and be resilient, because like you said, the world today, there's a lot of negative things, there's a lot of hard energy going on affecting everyone. And I want people to know that astrology, there's no bad or good traits. It's all strengths, and there could be some challenges, but every sun sign, every moon sign in astrology has their strengths. And if you know the basic personality traits, you'll be able to tap into those strengths to overcome crisis, change, loss, unexpected events, and be able to become stronger and be resilient, which means that you're able to adapt and bend but not break, and adapt to crisis, so you can survive and become stronger. And that's what I use astrology for in my counseling practice, with people.
Yeah, that's great, Carmen. Always in service of humanity.
Yeah.
And like you said before, it's completely about how you use it. So
Yeah.
you can use, I agree, you can use anything for good or not so good. It's up to you. And then I believe in that there's karmic consequences to what you do choose to do. But I wanted to comment on a couple things too. The first one is that I agree with you, is that when I first saw astrology, it was in the horoscope in the newspaper, and I looked at it and everyone was like, "Oh, don't, this is nonsense. Don't pay attention to that." And so it felt like it could be a little wacky to me, so I kind of ignored it. But like you said, Carmen, is that's like the Hollywood version of astrology, which is all just fad and let's make stuff up and let's have fun and
Yeah.
whatever. So when I approached it, first of all, I never wanted to do it. Now, the first girl that I dated when I was 17, she loved astrology. She
Yeah.
loved astrology, and I was like, I didn't understand it. I didn't really care. I was into
Yeah.
music,
Sure.
I played music since I was really young. So I'm like, yeah, whatever, I'm not interested. And then it was like basically it was put in my hand as a responsibility. And even to
Okay.
this day,
Yeah.
um, I only do it if people want to do it. People are
Sure.
like, "Oh, Dave's I'm like, "I'm whatever you need. Like, let's get you
Yeah.
where you want to go in your spiritual journey to help you. If you are
Sure.
offended by it, no problem. Let's talk about what you want to talk about.
Yeah.
I like talking about it, but if people don't, then fine. But what I always say too is give me like an hour and just don't say anything and just watch what I'm doing for an hour. And then you tell me what you think about it. You tell me when you see it done correctly,
Yeah.
then you can tell me what you think. And I believe it's a failing in our society and in our culture, especially, that
Yeah.
we're not teaching it correctly.
Yeah.
And so that's why when you do someone's charts, you're like, oh wow, how did you? Well, okay, if we were teaching it to kids, I'm not saying don't do in detail
Sure.
when people are young, but how about this? I'm just thinking about this. Well, hey, I was forced to read The Great Gatsby when I was in school.
Yeah.
I kind of thought that was a little bit foolish and kind of a waste of my time a little bit.
Yeah.
And there were some questionable things in there, things that could be potentially offensive to some people. All right.
Mm-hmm.
So we did 2 weeks on that. Now we're going to do 2 weeks on what I want to do. So now we're going to do 2 weeks of astrology.
Yeah.
And then that way, now you know about the fiction that you're forced to read. And then I'm going to show you the astrology that I guess you could also say you were forced to look at. But guess what? At the end of the
Yeah.
day, now you at least have seen it so that when,
True.
early in your life, so that later on you can say, oh, I remember we did like a little lesson on that. And
Sure.
now it makes sense to me because I've had more life experience.
Yeah.
But if they never see it, the
Yeah.
kid never sees it. That's the failing right there. You have to,
Yes.
I want it to be in all schools as a lesson. I'm not saying you spend years on it, but just like I was forced to do calculus, which I've never used in my entire life, I was not
Yeah.
even good at it at all. I was actually not good at it at all.
Oh.
But when I approached astrology, this is what's interesting about how I approached it too from my side, is that I approached it as a scientist. If
Yeah.
someone had to say, "What is Dave?" Dave's a scientist.
Mm-hmm.
I believe in science and mathematics.
Yes.
So when I saw patterns, Carmen, and
Yeah.
these patterns kept repeating, I'm like, I have to look at this now, or I'm a very bad scientist.
True,
Like
true.
you can't be a scientist and have your cake, and eat it and everything as well.
Yeah,
You have to. I mean, you can if you're lucky, I guess, but you
true.
have to be open to what. As a Virgo, you appreciate this. What is
Yeah,
the data saying?
yeah,
If the data is saying this, then okay, I guess I have to go with that. So then, after it was proven to
yeah,
me over and over again as I was doing charts, I said, and it was through science and mathematics and angles and
yeah,
shapes and all this stuff. I'm like, okay, so you know what?
yeah,
I don't necessarily love it, but it is true. And
yeah.
if I want to understand my place in the solar system, I better learn it because
True.
you're batting like without your baseball bat. You're going to the plate without your baseball bat
Yeah,
if you don't understand this
true,
is influencing things.
true.
So yeah, that's what I think about that part of it. And then
Yeah,
the other thing I wanted to add too is that it's just being open. It's
yeah,
not going to kill you. Like just give, especially if you respect the person, just listen to their story. You can
yeah.
believe whatever you want when they finish talking. You can
True.
never talk about it again. You can tell them to their face, I think that's ridiculous. Okay, but you know what? Just listen to them. You never know what you're going to learn.
Very true. I've always, yeah, it must be our Pisces, Virgo polarities share in similar traits because I've always been that way. I've been open minded, and I always just, if I see it, I'll believe it. That used to be my thing. If I see it, experience it, I'll believe it. And I've seen and experienced things with dreams and astrology that I believe there's so much more to why we're here. And, dreams, I love dreams. I love astrology too. I would probably say I don't know which one I like better. I love them both pretty equally, but to me, dreams, between dreams and astrology, I think people are a little bit more open to dreams because most people have them, or have had a dream. Where astrology, if they've never read about it or anything, they're not going to know about it. So I kind of use dreams as a way to connect to people, and then that kind of opens up their mind, into other things like astrology, or when they have a dream that happens that makes them wonder, why did I dream this, how did I know that, right? And they question, there's more to dreams. So I was looking at this list, I thought for the listeners that, I was looking at like what are the top most common dreams that people have, and I was researching this. So teeth falling out. So I've dreamed my teeth fell out. I've dreamed that several times through my life, and it what it is, it means that you regret the words you say. You've said something, or it's warning you to be careful what you say when your teeth fall out. It's like you've shared too much information. That's kind of what I've seen it's meant. Or in dream books, every dream book's a little different. But for me, I think it's interesting. Like one of the number one dreams people have is their teeth falling out, being chased, can't find a toilet, right? Being naked, failing exams. I can't tell you how many times I'm back in school and I'm like, I can't, and I don't, I'm taking a test, or I'm like worried I'm not going to pass a test in my dream. I'm like, I'm not even in school anymore. And when I wake up, I feel horrible. Like, oh no, you know, but that's a common one, these are symbolic dreams these are symbols that a lot of people in the world have. And it makes sense. Flying, a lot of people dream of flying in their dream, that they're flying in their body, right? And then falling, a lot of people dream of falling, and then right before they hit, they wake up, right? I hear that a lot from people. And crashing a car, driving a car, crashing, or being in a vehicle. um and then like running late, snakes, people cheating on you, like cheating partner, that's a very common dream. Hair falling out, or hair being cut, hair being different, right? So these are top common dreams that almost all people have, that are recurring. They can happen more than once, and they happen. It's kind of a symbol about the energy going on in your life and in your mind and in your brain, right? And in your emotions. And when you start looking up these symbols, it's amazing. It's shocking because it's like, oh, that makes sense. It's just kind of like astrology. I'm like, oh yeah, okay, that makes sense. Because once in a while, though, I'll dream something that no dream book can explain. you know, and I know I got to figure out what it means. So, um, there's a technique it's called process psychology. His name's Arnold Mendel. If you look him up, he created this technique to lead people back to the dream. You close your eyes, you go back to the dream, and you replay it in your mind, and you become all of the symbols in the dream. And what's it feel like to be that symbol? What does that symbol mean? And then that's how you can really get to the meaning of what the dream is trying to tell you, and what message it has. And I used to, dabble in that a little bit years ago, and it's very powerful, because when someone really doesn't have a clue what the dream means, because it's so complex, or just really strange symbols that, that aren't just classic, look up in the dream book kind of thing, where it's like a lot going on and they don't really understand. You can go back to your dream, and anyone can do it, and put yourself in each. Okay, what's it feel like to be the snake or your best friend? What does it mean? Why are they in the dream? And start becoming the symbols, because it's all energy. And your brain, your soul, I believe, is giving you symbols to try to talk to you. So it's trying to get your attention, right? Your soul is coming through in this realm when we're relaxed, to try to give us messages. And that's what I believe in. Like recently, I can't even make this up, but I can't give details, but something happened at work with a certain person that's kind of not in my normal office, but outside that I deal with, right? I'm gonna say. And I had a dream about them about a month before this all happened. And it was a very strange dream. And it was bad. It was a bad dream, I'll be honest. And I didn't want to talk about it. I didn't want to tell anybody about it. But I dreamed that this person died. Okay. And I was worried. I was worried about it. But I know death in a dream means change. It doesn't always mean someone's going to die. But sometimes I have dreamed of people passing, like my grandmothers, both of them, and then they passed away pretty much right after I dreamed it. So, but that is different than a symbolic dream, right? So this was symbolic, and there was a lot of stuff going on, but that was the big message, that this person had died at the end of the dream. And I was trying to find people to tell them, and people were upset, and I woke up and I thought, wow. So I had talked to them since the dream, and everything seemed okay. And then all of a sudden they got really upset about something and got mad at me over something silly, and completely cut me off, and kind of became kind of mean in a way, and wrote me some email, and etc., etc. And the whole relationship is completely changed that I had with this person. And I had no idea I had no idea what the dream meant at the time. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is exactly what that dream meant. You know what I mean? Because the whole thing has happened now. And it was karma, past life energy, whatever you want to call it, was coming to play. And it was going to happen no matter what I did. I did nothing wrong. And I still don't really know why they were so upset. And now they won't even talk to me. And it's really a work-related issue. It's stupid, something silly. But I had to let it go, because I knew that I had a message. I was warned ahead of time. Hey, this is going to happen. So I had peace knowing that God knew it was going to happen, and he showed me to prepare me, and I just got to accept it. And that's what I've tried to do. But, this happens all the time. I dreamed also recently that I was being chased by a female lion who was trying to kill me in the dream. And I was holding my puppy, my little Rosie, my little golden doodle, who I love so much, my little baby. And I'm running in the dream with my dog, protecting her. And this lion, lioness, a female lion, was watching me, and it was wanting to catch me. And I'm running through the whole night, being chased by this female lion. And I finally get up on a top ladder where the lion can't hurt me, the lioness, and someone took the lioness out. I don't know who, but they shot the lioness, and I was safe. So I could come down with my dog, and I was safe.
Was that in Africa, Carmen, or was it in a different location?
No, it was like a mall. I was like outside in, you know what? I'm not real sure. I wasn't in the city or town I'm in now. I was in another time. I was like in alleys. There were stores. There were places I haven't been before. right? And this lioness is chasing me in public. I mean, in public. And I'm running and running. Well, I woke up and I knew that there's someone in my life that's the lioness. I knew it. And I figured out who it was. Yeah.
Was it a Leo person?
I think they have some Leo rising.
Okay.
Yes. That's my guess. Now I haven't seen their chart, but I'm pretty sure from my experience they're a Leo rising. And they have some Leo energy, yes. But they were angry. And I didn't know why, because I was having to protect myself. And, you know, and when I dream about my dog, you know, because of all things, why am I have my dog in the dream the whole time, you know, trying to protect my dog, right? And it's because to me, my dog is completely innocent and naive and vulnerable, like, you know, to being hurt. So I'm always wanting to protect my dog, you know, because she can't talk. She can't tell me what's wrong. I'm always worried about her getting hurt, right? Or running out into the road. It's like a small child. And so I'm very, you know, my dog is like pure love, pure innocence, pure trust. You know, she loves people. She'll jump out and want to get every person that comes up to her. She loves people. So I knew that's a part of myself. My friendly, open nature is vulnerable. And that the whole thing happened, Dave. And I learned a lesson. I'm like, you know what? I learned a lesson. So all of these things that have happened, these dreams and these experiences, though, have kind of been, I believe, are connected to my North Node in my astrology chart, which is a soul mission, our soul mission this lifetime. And my North Node is in Scorpio. And unfortunately, I have to be betrayed and hurt, and sometimes learn the hard way to let go of the past and to listen to my instincts and to protect my energy and my boundaries of people. Because I'm very trusting and open, you know, because I got a lot of 12th house, I got a lot of Virgo, and I get hurt easily by certain people. And so this was just another test. Said, I need to be more like a Scorpio and not say anything and be pretty quiet and just listen, right? And so I'm learning to be a different person, to embrace that Scorpio North Node, because I know that that's why I'm here, and we're all here to master the North Node in our chart. And so, you know, if you haven't had a chart done, you can go to astro.com, you can contact Dave, and he'll pull your wheel up and tell you where your North Node is, right? Which is your soul mission this lifetime. And then he'll tell you your South Node, which is past lifetimes, or if you don't believe in past lifetimes, it's really the traits and skills that you've already mastered. You can see it as that, and what you've already done. And so he can tell you what you need to focus on, you know, what energy to do and stuff like that. So, you know, you can always call and reach out to Dave, have him do your birth chart, you know, a psychological birth chart for you, and learn where your node is, where your moon sign is, you know, all of that. So then you can look at my book and look at your moon sign. I have a whole chapter dedicated to each moon sign. And I have a sun sign book as well that you can look up your sun sign and learn a little bit of tips. But, you know, that's my passion is sharing knowledge and information and experiences with people, and to open people's minds up. Because when people meet me and know me in like work or other, they have no idea of some of these things I'm sharing with you on this show, because I don't really talk about, you know, I don't go around just telling people, right? But if they ask me and want to have a deep conversation with me about life or what I believe, I'll tell them, you know, and I'm a little you know, you got to be careful though, who you open up to, because some people will hurt you, or they won't, you know, they may pretend that they believe the same, or they want to be accepting, but then they really aren't accepting. And I've had that happen too. But for the most part, I'm who I am, and people pretty much know it, because they know I believe in astrology and I'm into that. Because I'm like, what's your birthday? What's your sun sign? And they know I'm into dreams, basic. But, you know, they don't know the extent, you know, that I'm into some that I live. Yeah. I live this stuff. Like I live astrology. I live dreams. It's a part of my routine and my life. You know, it's a part of who I am. It's not just a hobby to me. It really is like part of who I am and what I live each day, you know?
That's true. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. I find that, well, it depends on what I'm doing during that week or the month or whatever. But people might be surprised. I'm not always looking at the conditions of the sky.
Yeah.
I've got what I've been doing the past. I'm reading the Book of Mormon right now, actually,
Nice.
for the second time. First time was actually 10 years ago,
Yeah.
which was before I went on the church history trip, before I followed Joseph Smith's life from the beginning, where he was born in Vermont, till where he was martyred in Carthage Jail, Illinois, which I'm sure you've been
Oh, yeah.
there, right, Carmen?
Yeah. Yeah.
So the thing about it is that you have to figure out where you want to spend your time too, because
True.
the past 2 months I've been doing more reading about kind of ancient America, things that were said to have happened here, some prophecies that relate to the American continent and all this stuff.
Sure.
But hey, if someone contacts me and they say, I want to do a chart, absolutely. And I'm so happy to do that. And I'm so happy to show people what happens when you have it done correctly. This is not, again, I'm a scientist. I'm not the best mathematician. I'm good enough where I can do basic math for sure and basic geometry. But the point is that, like, just look at your world and just, for me, it's like lifelong learning, Carmen. It's that I want to know about this stuff just for the very simple reason is that they exist. So if they exist and some people have spent hundreds of years, or groups of people spent hundreds of years on the topic or whatever, I want to know why.
Yeah.
Like, why did the Knights Templar? What is that whole story? And how about the Rosicrucians? And how about the Freemasons? And, but the world is so big and there's so much you got to focus. What I've had to do lately, I would say the past 3 years especially, is that, as I mentioned at the beginning of the show, I'm interested in every topic.
Sure.
I've had to really focus on the things that are actionable. And because I believe in taking action with your knowledge, I don't care if something, like, for instance, here's a good example, like Jeopardy.
Sure.
Okay, so yeah, all this stuff, it's cool. But, like, are you using it to do something to help your neighbor or to help your community or to help people with their health or with astrology or something?
True.
And if you're not, quite frankly, I don't really care.
Yeah.
Because there's so many problems, things that we need to address and we need to be upfront about.
Yeah.
That that's where I spend my energy.
Yeah.
So you just have to figure out where you want to spend that. I want to say something really, and we're coming up to the end. We got about 10 minutes max left, right, Carmen?
Yeah,
Roughly?
yeah. I gotta go about 5:30. Yeah.
Okay.
About 8 minutes. Yeah.
All right. So let me just add this. This will be my final kind of main point. I just wanted to add really quickly about again, back to Revelation, actually, since you brought that up. And of course, it was a vision. John the Revelator, I believe it was Patmos. Is that correct? I hope I'm right about that. In Greece, he was in a cave and he had this vision, and it became the book of Revelation when he wrote it down.
Yeah.
And it's a very strange book. It's a very uncomfortable book, even for a Christian, if we're being honest.
Yeah.
Like the weird creatures and stuff and strange things flying in the sky. It's like, what is going on here?
Yeah.
All right. So what I've suggested too, and you mentioned the horsemen, of course, it's very important. And there's so many ways that you could put the meaning into the text. You can draw it out differently and kind of parse it out differently, again, depending on how you want to interpret it. There's many correct interpretations. It's also something I've had to learn too, is that there can be multiple things true at the same time, even if they seem contradictory. And that's when it gets difficult, especially as a scientist. I have to kind of compartmentalize as much as I can to make that consistent and make that work. But the 7 seals, that's what I wanted to talk about. The 7 seals for me are the 7 chakras. However, I also personally do believe that there's going to be an event on this planet, and it is probably going to match that. I don't think I'm the one that designed that. I don't really like it. Okay. But there's a reason why it's there, I would say, and we should be paying attention to it. I used to think, Carmen, I used to draw everything back to the body because, of course, I've studied biology for the longest out of anything that I do. And so when I looked at the 7 seals, to me, it's the 7 chakras. It's pretty obvious. Chakra it's a spinning wheel or a spinning vortex of energy. You could call it a seal if you wanted to.
Sure.
It's sealing that part of your spinal column, that part of your energy highway. And the other one that's really important is actually, I'm trying to remember which book. I thought it was in Ezekiel. I could be wrong. You might know more than me. But it's, of course, it's the fixed cross in the sky. And people are saying, what is this thing that's in a circle with a human?
Yeah.
a bull, right? A lion and an eagle or a scorpion or
Yeah.
whatever. Well,
Ball.
okay,
Yeah.
right. So it could actually be, let's say, it could be some kind of an ET craft. I'm fine with that. But I'll tell you what it definitely is definitely the fixed signs of the zodiac. And if you're not
True.
seeing that, you're totally missing that point. It's very easy to see that. And
True.
then the other one I want to mention, the last one I want to mention, is this idea of the 144,000 that will be saved. Now, again, I personally think that story is true. And it
Okay.
took me a long time to come around to that. I'm
True.
talking about, yeah, I kind of do think there's going to be 144,000 people that are saved, and they're going to be the ones that have the purest hearts. Certainly,
Yeah.
it's not all the people on earth are like that. You have
True.
to, you can't. The very definition of heaven to me is you have to embody that kind of energy.
Yeah.
So if you have a heavenly plane or whatever, but then you're going to let everyone in, well, then it's not heaven anymore. Because you
True.
can't have that stuff in heaven. You can't have the
True.
lower energy stuff in there. So there has to be some kind of a separation,
True.
in my opinion.
True.
However, the other thing that it definitely means, and I go all the way back to ancient India, Carmen. I'm fascinated by all the stuff from the Western world, but people are like, oh yeah, Knights Templar, Rosicrucians. I'm like, all right, guys, you know what? It's kind of basic stuff
Yeah.
when you're comparing it to ancient India and ancient
True.
China. So if you
True.
want to get the real core of that, put that other stuff, well, don't put it in the trash. I mean, it's helpful.
Yeah.
But like you got to understand that what came before that, thousands and thousands and thousands, the Indian calendar, the Yuga cycle, 4.32 million years long. The great year of the Western hemisphere, 25,920. That's nothing.
Yeah.
That's why the Indians have all that wisdom over there, because they've been here for a very, 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 very long
Yes.
time.
Yes.
Very appreciative.
Yes.
All right, so the 144,000 then for me is when you go to ancient India, you pull up again your physiology. The bottom 6 chakras, 1 through 6, they have 144 nerve endings or energy outputs. I call it. It might not be quite that way in Gray's Anatomy, but I believe energetically it is that way. And that's why when you see the chakra, you can see the petals.
Yeah.
And the number of petals that it is, those are the energy outputs at that chakra. So when you add up all the numbers, the bottom 6 is 144. And then you have the 1,000-petaled lotus flower. Why is it called that? Why is that the crown chakra? Well, because there's 1,000 nerve endings on that chakra, on the 7th chakra.
That's
so
awesome.
what happens is you multiply the 1,000 times 144. That's it. So you're talking about, so when you're talking about physiology, you're talking about the human body that will be resurrected when all of the dead cells are risen. Everything turns on, and then you're saved, literally, in a physiological ascension way.
That's awesome. Yeah, I love that.
So I teach that. That's the way I teach it. But there's many ways to talk about it.
Sure.
But in any case, okay, so I guess we're at the end of the show. Did you want to add something else quickly, Carmen, or make a final comment or anything?
Just want to, thanks for having me on, and just want everybody to know, do some research, if there's something you're interested in, just read about it, study it, learn it, be kind of like a scientist, if you haven't experienced something, just be open-minded, like Dave said, to different beliefs and theories, because really there's so much that we don't always really know that we've been told is true. And I'm, it's okay to question things and research. That's what I do. Just, Dave does. We read things, we hear something, we want to learn more about it, and we just stay open-minded. It doesn't mean we believe in every single thing, but that we read, but we open our mind and we take what makes sense to us. And that's kind of my parting wisdom. Thanks for having me on to share my love of dreams and astrology and the Bible and
definitely,
and all these things. And my book, Moon Signs, Houses, and Healing, comes out May 8 officially, but you can pre-order it now on Amazon. And there's a sun sign book that accompanies it if you want to get both, to learn more about your personality, your main identity, and then your emotional nature. So you can find me at CarmenTurner-Schott.com, or on Facebook, Carmen Turner-Schott author, or on Instagram, Carmen Turner-Schott. And then I have Deep Soul Divers Astrology, Carmen Turner-Schott Facebook page as well. And you can follow me on there. And I have a YouTube channel, Carmen Turner-Schott. Love for you to follow me on YouTube. And let me know if you need anything. Always reach out, and I'll be here to assist. And thanks for having me, Dave.
Oh, you're welcome. Yeah, this has been phenomenal. We'll continue sometime for sure.
Yeah.
Any topic that comes up, I'm always interested in doing. Maybe we can do a little bit more about astrology next time.
Sure.
But whatever's fine with me.
Yeah, we could cover the basics. Go over all the sun signs and their personalities. Stuff like that for the beginners.
I think that'd be really fun to talk about that, and just I always end up smiling. I'm like, all right, we could take it sign by sign and just kind of give a rundown of what you should expect in that kind of a person. And in fact, one of the first things that I always recommend, if people are like, oh yeah, astrology is ridiculous, it's fake, it's fallacy, nonsense, I'm like, all right, take everyone and you got 12 columns, put them in the right sign, and then look at that column, look at those 20 people you got per column or whatever. As you're reading the description of that sign online, just pull it up, and guess what? You're going to be like, that's strange. Okay, well then, you know what? When you go through all 12 of them, now you're going to see the pattern holds very strong. It matters where you are in the sign too, of course. There's the idea of cusp signs and all these things. I break it down degree by degree, Carmen. So I don't do as much the decan, which means 10 degrees within. There's 3 decans per sign. Makes 30 degrees per sign. I do it degree by degree. I give ratios and percentages. Again, I'm a scientist, so I'm pulling straight from data.
Nice.
So anyway, we'll continue with that next time. But I just want to thank you, Carmen, again. And of course, if you guys want to find me, Facebook, Dave Petrella, Instagram, Dave Petrella 12. You're already on my YouTube channel if you're watching this, I'm sure. That's also under Dave Petrella 12. I've got a bunch of services, of course, astrology, principles of Eastern medicine, spiritual guidance. They're all listed in the description below. And then please support me, guys. I can't do it without you. I'm being upfront and honest. So I've got my Patreon I just set up, and I've got my PayPal links for donations. Please support me if you can. And as always, I really appreciate you watching, and we'll see you next time. And Carmen, thanks again. Really appreciate it.